Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you very much for joining us on our webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rob Wilkinson. I'm an agronomist, agricultural consultant and a partner in a family business, and also chair Cultivate. So for the young thinkers of the agricultural and rural world, we've tried to put on a number of events over the last 3 or 4 years, encouraging people to think slightly differently and outside of the box and what have you. And we had an exceptionally good seminar 2 years ago on succession. And then I was very kindly put in contact with Heather, who I was told would be very good to come and talk to us about change. And this time last year, we were in conversation about Heather coming down to meet with us all and discuss change within the agricultural world, which was around the corner. Little did we know that also around the corner was a global pandemic that has probably changed our lives far more than we could have ever expected. So we decided to put that on hold this time last year, and Heather has very kindly agreed to join us this evening. And we're also joined by Joe Spencer, a MacIntyre Hudson Cultivate member and an accountant. So I will introduce Heather first, and then we'll have about half an hour or so of Heather talking. Please, if you've got questions, type them along, and we'll try and either, if they're really salient, we'll raise them as we go along, or if not, we'll break when Heather finishes, and then we'll come to Joe with a few thoughts and then carry on with some questions. I will just like to remind you all that we are being recorded, and this will also be put on the Society website at a later date to be uploaded, where we've also got the previous 3, I think, or possibly 4 that we've done this winter that are definitely worth a look, and all the rest of it. So thank you very much for joining us. So quick introduction to Heather. Cumbrian born and bred, brought up with a sheep and beef hill farm in the Lake District, and now lives in Scotland with her family. She's a former Nuffield scholar, managed to travel around the world with the title of Communication, Influencing and Motivating Change. She's a very passionate, straight talker, soft skills with a sledgehammer, her own description of her, yeah, is very active on social media and helping rural businesses with various aspects of change. So without further introduction, Heather, I shall hand over to you.
Hi, thank you, Rob. Thank you very much for the Cultivate team and the Society for inviting me. Yeah, this time last year I was about to get on a plane to go to Australia and New Zealand for the trip of a lifetime, only for it to be caught right in the middle of the lockdown and having to hibernate in a grain silo until we could get a flight out of New Zealand. But it was a 5-star grain silo, so it wasn't all the end of the world. Right, let's get this show on the road. So thank you. Yeah, Rob asked me to speak about change, and I think, oh gosh, the world is always changing, isn't it? We never seem to have everything just sort of set. And I think now is a really good time with COVID to reflect, to think, where are we? What is happening? And how is the confidence in your business, in your sector, in our country, I guess? You know, have you got the confidence to build a really long-term, exciting vision within your business? And are you, what sort of culture is in your business as well? Because there's some people that COVID has just absolutely been a game changer. It's been a springboard, and agriculture in many, many ways has been very protected. But for some people, I do worry how they're going to be after COVID. Some will be permanently scarred, businesses that have been successful for generations, that suddenly having this sort of 2 seasons of lockdown has just been too much and have had to fold, and the trauma of that will be pretty hard. I think also, we're in a time now, we're very much in the world eye, that farming has never been under as much scrutiny. What is our reputation? And as a farmer, as a custodian of the land, have you got a great reputation? People are really proud of you, they're endorsing you, you get loads of opportunities. Or, have you got a reputation of stress, pressure, have always been on the back foot, you know, and would you work for you? Because our reputation now within agriculture has never been as critical. We are in a really highly competitive world for staff. You know, staff, I think, is going to be one of the greatest challenges for a lot of farming businesses, whether, you know, it's seasonal or whether it's long term, and also skilled staff. You know, so when you look out there, are you the employer of choice, and would you work for you? So I think we've really got to look at this reputation. I think farming and a lot of our generation before took for granted that there was always someone going to come and work with us. Viability. You know, a lot of farmers don't like to talk about money, but you know, a business that is profitable and making money is a lot more fun to be involved in, which I'm sure Joe will confirm, than businesses that are struggling. And you know, we're really going to have to look now at how viable is our business? Is it going to be sustainable? Is it going to be able to generate the profit? And we're going to touch on succession this evening as well. You know, depending where we are, a number of businesses are fine maintaining one generation or two generations, but now we're all living a bit longer. You know, are they able to sustain these new generations coming forward? And, you know, it used to be an average farmer could make money, and now really, really good farmers are struggling to make money. And technical efficiency has never been under more scrutiny, and science and technology is growing all the time. And, you know, are you at the cusp of that? And then, you know, I do believe change always brings opportunity. And I think there's going to be a huge amount of opportunities coming forward. And it'd be interesting what Joe brings forward with the budget that's come forward today. But, you know, there's going to be some massive opportunities. There's going to be people that think, you know, time out, I've had enough. Other ones that maybe don't have family generations coming forward, but don't want to sell a property. So there could be some contracting, some mergers and things going forward. So I think now is a really good time to look at your business. Understand the foundations, understand, you know, where is the strengths of the business that we really need to maintain, so that then when we get the chance to grow and expand, we absolutely protect these solid foundations and grow and expand more. And people. God, generally in farming, we don't really do people, do we? People, it would all be grand if we didn't have to work with people. But whether we like it or not, we do have to take people with us. And in your organization, in your business, in your family, you know, have you got the confidence, trust and support of everybody with you? And do we have the right skill sets that we need to take the business forward? Because going forward, you know, it used to be farming was about tending the land and looking after the stock and everything. But now the biggest money is actually made sitting at the desk in the office. So have we got those skill sets to go forward? And I am really, really worried about health and well-being of our rural community. Stress is the #1 killer out there. And, you know, there's a lot of people working harder, longer days, you know, they're getting up before they've gone to bed. And this just isn't sustainable. And we're starting to see people really cracking under the pressure. Mental health has never been at such an ebb. And, you know, a lot of farms, and I see it on social media and everything, it's like a greedy, demanding mistress, the farm. You know, they're always wanting your time. There's always something to do. They're always demanding. There's never enough days in the hours in the day, days in the week. And it can become obsessive. Whereas, you know, we do need to take time out, take holidays. And I'm seeing now a number of businesses, and COVID with furlough and everything has really emphasized that. It's amazing how smart businesses can work and efficient they can be on maybe a 2 or 3 day week. And this working 24/7 is I think going to become a time of the past. People don't want to work 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. We're now looking at a society that want to do maybe 4-hour shifts, and maybe want 2 or 3 jobs. So we're going to have to really start thinking about how we structure our businesses and the reputation, and how we adapting to be able to ensure that we have a healthy, well, family, business, community and sustainable future going forward. So who am I? I wish Heather Wildman, the saviour of the Scottish dairy industry is how I used to declare myself. Now I want to save asses and kick asses. I've got a lot of ambition, a lot of dream, and I wish I looked like that, but those days are definitely gone, but I can still aspire. Cumbrian girl, born and bred, as Rob said, brought up in the farming community. I've lived and worked probably more in the dairy sector, but in the last few years, I now cover pretty much everything from vineyards, NHS, National Trust, accountants, land agents, arable cereal, pigs, poultry, all over. And when I did set up on my business, you know, I'm a Cumbrian girl, everyone else said, oh, you know, what do you know? You don't know anything. I left school at 15 and I've just been really, really lucky with some of my jobs. I never would have thought that today, you know, like this week, I was working in Australia on Monday, I was in Finland on Tuesday, I'm down with the East area today, and tomorrow I'm in Northern Ireland. So from a Cumbrian girl that left school at 15, life's been pretty exciting and pretty fulfilling. And I can honestly say that all really changed back in 2012 when I was lucky enough to get an Nuffield farming scholarship, which I know hopefully a few of you will have heard of, maybe some of you have been lucky enough to achieve one as well. Nuffield was a great thing for me. Like I say, I didn't do college, didn't do university, anything like that. And I've been really fortunate with my jobs. But back in 2012, I started to get frustrated. I started to feel like a square peg in a round hole. I was quite a challenging individual. So for some companies, that brought a few head-on clashes. But I was always intrigued, I was always curious, and I got the chance to go into a Nuffield. And I've been doing a lot of discussion groups. I worked with Dairy Co at the time, AHDB, and I started to think, why do some people get it? You know, whether it be cultivating your land, cultivating your soil, seed varieties, genetics, breeding, Weight Watchers, Alcoholics Anonymous. Why do some people go to these groups and suddenly get it, transform their lives, their businesses, and other people keep putting it off and changing it? So my scholarship was on communication, how to influence and motivate change. And I wanted to know how I could encourage my farmers that I was working with to buy into things and to get more out of life and opportunities. So I went to Chile, Peru, Brazil. I went to Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, Canada, Ireland and Wales. I was cowboying in Montana. I was locked up in a high intensive prison in Penetanguishene in Canada. I went sailing up the Amazon, and I had an absolute whale of a time. I met entrepreneurs, I met scientists, researchers, government, facilitators. I met people who had been incredibly successful with their businesses, and I've met people who had had huge devastation, challenges, and personal breakdowns and everything as well. And it was a really humbling experience. And I can honestly say, I know these phrases are used quite flippantly, but it was life-changing for me. And when you come back from doing a field, you have to write a report. And I tried to think, what was the common denominators in these businesses that had gone amazingly successful, or the ones that had a physical, mental or financial breakdown, but then turned it around and recovered? What were the key things that drove that turnaround and that success and pulling people together? And it was three really simple things. Every one of these businesses, they had a vision. They had a dream, they had a goal, they had clarity of ambition. And whenever I ask any of my audiences or clients that I work with, I say, you know, do you have a dream? Do you have a goal? What is your vision? And either people say, oh, no, I don't. But most people, if we're honest, do. But it's in here. You know, God forbid we tell anybody, you know, because if we tell anybody, some beggar might steal it or do it before us, or worse still, they might hold us to account and make us do it. But a dream or a goal that is just in your head is just a fantasy. But what I did find evidence through Harvard and many, many other research institutes, that a dream or a goal that is written down is 80% more likely to come true. Now that's pretty huge odds. And then, you know, having a dream or a goal, it's all well and good in your head, but people are not mind readers. And I don't know about you, I have never done anything successfully on my own. And in agriculture, I've found it's not what you know, it's who you know. So if you have a dream or a goal and you haven't shared it, how do people know to be able to help you to open doors? You know, the best jobs, they're never advertised. The best land opportunities, contract farming, breeds and sales and things, they're often never sold. It's all word of mouth. So you need to be able to verbalize it. And I've had folks say, oh, Heather, I don't want the neighbours to know everything. And, you know, well, trust me, if you're doing it, they'll know about it and they'll be talking about it anyway. But the people that need to know, whether it be your land agent, your lawyer, your accountant, you know, the vet, the neighbours, you know, they need to know. So you need to be able to verbalize it. And even more importantly, your staff and your family need to know what the dreams and the goals are. And then it's, who do you have around you? Because not many people can do something successfully on their own. So it's building that right team of network to help you get over that line, score that try, and, you know, make that difference that you really want to get to. And, you know, and I love this saying, and I really saw this when I was out there, businesses that truly believed and people that truly love what they're doing, it shows. You know, winners in life are excited about where they're going and what they're doing. And I ask you, how many excited farmers do you see? Ooh, you know, we don't like to, you know, but there is some, I know there are some, but it is absolutely true. Someone that is smiling and positive and buzzy about it, they attract people, they motivate people, you want to work with them. And this was something that really came back, and I came back from Nuffield absolutely buzzing. And then, as ever with reality, it's like, oh shit. You know, it's all well and good coming up with these great ideas and everything, but you know, when you get out there, the reality of life farming isn't just as straightforward. And I started to question this. Why in the UK are we that bit more different? Why do we have our head down? Why are we a bit more negative? Why don't we sing and shout about how good we are, how well we're doing, and where we want to be, and our aspirations? And I think going forward, this is an issue that a lot of our, you know, businesses have, and it's great seeing all these generational changes. And you know, I think we now need to think really, well, if we're not happy where we are, if it isn't working, what are we going to do about it? And I think that is absolutely key. You know, stepping, if what you're doing, you know, isn't making where you want to be, you're not happy, you need to start really thinking about your business. How viable is it? You know, and a lot of people, when I ask how the business is doing, you know, they wait to get last year's accounts, and then it's like, how much tax have I paid? Oh, that's too much. Well, actually, that's not good enough. You know, so you really need to know, where are you? Where do you want to be? And how are you going to get there? So if you are, depending what generation you are in the business, whether you are the incoming generation, you've left university, you want to take the reins of the business, or you may be more in the, you know, the exiting generation, you've had a really fantastic career doing what you want to do, the next people are coming through and you're thinking, where am I wanting to be? So I'd start with any of the families I look at with this is how viable is the business? Because we can't make any decisions on succession, on transitioning the business, unless we know how viable it is. How many people are on the farm? And I think that's really key, because a lot of families say, oh, I want to be fair, but fair isn't always equal. And sometimes somebody does maybe get a larger value of land, but then they maybe have all the debt and they maybe have to look after mum and dad as well. And, you know, and what are the off-farm children's expectations as well? Do they really expect much? They maybe got put through university, they maybe got bought a flat, you know, they may be doing quite well in their own business. So it might be something a little bit lighter that they're looking for. It might even just be a bit of land on the farm. And time frame, you know, if you are wanting to take the bull by the horns of your own business, your own life, you need to start putting a time frame in place. Where do you aspire to be? And I do reverse budgeting. I think, right, you know, we get a ruler, and the average person lives to about 88. So you've got 0 to 88. And I put the first quarter to 25, you know, you're learning, you're growing. 25 to sort of 35, you're testing, you're trying. Some people never get out of that stage. 35 to 55, you're implementing, you're doing. And then hopefully if we get to 55 onwards, you know, we're winding down and retiring as well. So in that ruler, where are you? And, you know, so for me, 49, the big year this year, and I want to retire at 70. And how much money do I want to live on when I retire? And a number of families never really think about this. And, you know, be honest, some people, it's maybe, oh, one guy said, Heather, I struggle to spend 6,000. And another person said, well, I want 100,000, because, you know, living life when we're not putting anything through the business, anything through the farm, we're completely independent. It's surprising. I don't think anything's going to get cheaper. So then add that up. If you're going to, you know, retire at 70, you're going to live 18 years. If you're lucky, you know, I want 50,000, that's 900,000 I need. And so if I have only realised at 50 and I've saved nothing, because a lot of family businesses, they reinvest everything back into the farm, so there isn't actually anything in the pot for mum and dad or granny, you know, you suddenly sort of think, hang on, but at least you've still got 19 odd years to work. But it's people, especially tenant farmers, that suddenly realise another generation's coming in, everything's in the farm, what do we do? So having these conversations, reverse budgeting, and if you're 2021, really think about this as well. And then every decision you're making, is it going to add value to get you that lifestyle and legacy that you want? So you need to take control. And you need to get it written down, what your aspirations, what your aims and objectives are, and do bring in professional support. And there's a vast variety of professionals out there. And I must put my hands up and say I'm not a lawyer, an accountant, a solicitor, anything. I have no legal form and training. As you probably gathered, I'm just a talker. And there's some amazing professionals out there, like our Joe that we've got here this evening. But there's an awful lot out there as well that are maybe not always got your best interest in heart. But then you also have to be honest, have you given them absolutely clarity of what you want from the professionals? They are not mind readers. So if you've always gone into them and said, I don't want to pay tax and I want your fees as cheap as possible, that's possibly the information you're going to get. But if you're then saying, I want a succession plan that is going to be able to inspire and fulfill my children, I want to manage tax, but I want this and this, you know, the best professionals will be able to work that round. And then it's about looking at the business and making sure when you've got your dreams and goals that there's enough money in the pot. And some of the hardest things, you know, a lot of people maybe have in their head, but the problem comes to when we have to sit down with the family. And I've got some family members that say, oh, Heather, you know, oh, we've got a wonderful close family. We all get on. Everybody knows the big picture. Everybody knows what's going on. And then I'll speak to the children and I'll say, yeah, Mum, Dad, you talk about it, but we don't actually do it, which I see happening a lot. Whereas this new generation, the millenniums coming forward, they want timelines. They don't want to know one day. They want to know when that day will be. In 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, you're going to take over. They want clarity of all of this information. And it can be difficult when you're sitting people down and they don't want to talk about it. And I've got one young lad, he says, Heather, if I want to talk to my dad, I wait till about 7:30 on a Sunday night. He's had his roast beef, he's had a couple of cans of beer, and he's really chilled and mellow. I've got another one that says, the only way I can speak to mum and dad is when we're in the pickup and the doors are locked and they can't escape because it's uncomfortable. And that can go, sometimes the younger generation don't want to hear because, oh, that's talking death. And sometimes the older generation don't want to push the younger generation because they don't want them to feel they have to come into the business. But we have to have this conversation at some point. And the sooner you have it, before there's conflict, before there's health, finances or fallout, people can be a lot more relaxed and objective with it as well. And it might even be that you sit everyone down and have a bit of fun. You know, go on, what would you do with the farm? What do you expect? What do you think of your sister? What do you think of your brother? You know, and some of the older generation are desperate to get out, and other people's want to keep the reins until they die. And I think being honest about that, there is a time and place for everybody. The other thing also is keep the communication going. And I like it when there's one family that they have a family meeting once a year in February. They go away, they'll not be away this year, and they set their goals and their plans every year and they review it once a year. And they're quite a competitive family. And that's a really nice way to give everyone that timeline to make sure they achieve it. And then keep people up to date with emails, have a board meeting. And then I think Zoom has opened so many doors about that. And you know, a lot of families that, you know, if you ask them what makes you happy, they don't know, but they're normally generally quick enough to tell you what makes them unhappy. So going forward, you know, wherever you are, if you're exiting or if you want to come in, create a plan. Take advice and take the best advice, and don't always take the first advice. Don't be afraid of taking second opinions and third opinions. Regardless of whether you're the daughter-in-law, the son, the mother, the sister, the granny, the auntie, someone has to take control. and don't be afraid of making it you. And you might not be popular because you'll have to push people, you'll have to put timelines on, and you will have to put those timelines with your professionals as well, because the best will in the world, everybody's under pressure. So you need to put that in place. And, you know, some of the other things that we've talked about is getting your ship in order. And another way of really been important with succession, and I think COVID has brought this to a head with me more than anything else, is what happens if a key member of the business or family doesn't come home? And we keep so much in our head now. So how to run the business if I'm not here? And this is really key. So, you know, if it's a sole trader, a partnership, whose names are on the deeds, whose name's on the property, what happens if that person come home? You know, what happens to the tenancy? What happens to the bank account? What happens to the single farm payment? Is the structure of the business that was maybe set up a few years ago, is that the right structure for the business going forward? And Joel talked more about sole traders, partnerships, trusts and limited companies. You know, there's a time and a purpose for everyone. Tenancies and farming agreements, whose name are they in? Where are they? And really important, wills and power of attorney. Oh my God, I should be on commission. If you do nothing else from tonight, hands up who has got an up-to-date will and power of attorney. And I spoke to a group of accountants and I asked them how many in this room have got their wills and power of attorney in order. And I was shocked that less than half of them did. And I challenged them that they were a disgrace, which didn't go down too well. But it is really, really important to have your wills and power of attorneys in place and to review them. So wills and a letter of intentions, I think, is really quite nice to go with a will as well. But where is the will? And have you got the right trustees and executors in place to manage your affairs? And power of attorney, you know, it's not just for the dead and dying. Power of attorney, you know, once lockdown is out and we're all let loose, we're all going to be skiing and holidays and having the whale of a time, you know. So if, God forbid, there's a grant comes out or single farm payment or whatever is happening, who can manage your affairs if you're not there? And, you know, we've seen now, it can be a knock on the head, it can be a virus to the younger, fitter members of the family that can absolutely knock them out. So who would run your business affairs and who would look after your, you know, your mental and your health care and everything as well? So please look at that. Property deeds, where are they? Whose names are they on? Do they actually own the property? Mortgages, you know, we might want to take over this brilliant business that looks from the outside great because we've got all the nice kit, we've got all the nice cars, but if we're mortgaged to the hilt, do you really want to be a partner in that business? And, you know, are you a partner? Have you got the deeds? Have you got a partnership agreement? Is the partnership agreement fit for purpose? And what are you a partner of? You know, it's amazing when I speak to clients, and one young farmer, he went home, he said, Dad, I know I'm a partner, but what am I a partner of? And Dad said, oh, I'm not sure. We'll speak to the accountant. And the accountant says, hey, George, he's not, you never came back to us. So he's not a partner of anything. And, you know, it's that thing of dotting the I's, crossing the T's and checking the paperwork as well. Bank accounts. Who manages all the bank accounts? Who's got the passwords? Where are the passwords? Just there, have it on the side of the computer. Actually, that's not the worst case scenario. You know, they're generally in the top drawer in a little back book that says passwords. But this is really key. If someone, and a lot of businesses, one person does all the banking, if they do not come home, your banks can be completely frozen. And have you ever tried to get into a mobile phone without the passwords? You know, these are really key. So regardless if you're a business owner or you're just domestic looking after your own household and everything as well, where's all your passwords? And have them all written down. You know, retirement, have you got savings, on farm, off farm? What's all your debts? What's all your liabilities? Who are all your suppliers? Who's your accountant? Who's your solicitor? Who's your, you know, who does where's all the drains and the stop clocks and the meters and everything? All these things, if someone doesn't come home, and it could even be a key member of staff, it could be the tractorman or the tractor lady that's been with you for years, it could be a farm manager, you know, if you just let them go off and they don't come home, how vulnerable is your business? So those are really, really good things. And, know your numbers, know your numbers. It's not good enough now guesstimating, and I'm sure Joe loves it when clients come in, they've got everything in order and they've got quarterly meetings reviewing the business, saying where are we on budget, where are we going, what's the tax planning, rather than, oh, we're going to have to pay tax, we need to spend some money, things coming up. And write it down. As I said right at the beginning, a vision or a goal or a dream that's written down is 80% more likely to come true. And I like this because I think you should have goals for your business, but you should have it for your personal self. And make sure you make time for you, because if you are not investing in yourself, you will never be your full you, your full potential for your family or your business. And we're seeing that now, people that are getting run down, getting stressed, shingles, breakdowns. You need to make time for you. And I know myself, for me, it's going walking the dog. When I'm stressed and I'm hitting a wall, I can't think, I'm just getting really, really frustrated. I just down tools, I'll go for a walk, and it's like clarity. It just comes out. Or I'll ring someone and I'll bounce some ideas off them. And you know what? It's like a weight off your shoulders, a breath of fresh air. So have some goals and some dreams, because time disappears. You know, I thought January was never going to end, but by God, did anyone see February? It was just gone, you know. And when you think how quick last year went and how quick the last 5 years have gone, they're not going to slow down. So if you want to achieve something, write it down and put benchmarks in place and make it happen. But most importantly, surround yourself by people that bring out the best in you. If you want to be something, walk it, talk it, live it, breathe it, associate with yourself with those kind of people, and drop the dead weights, drop the drains, the people that say you can't do it, that bring you down, give you stress and everything. That's really hard if you're married to them, and that's your choice whether you can see that one through. But you know, really bring yourself out, folk that lift you up, encourage you, motivate you, and make things happen. And that's really down to building that network of professional people around you, because you know, success is no accident. People aren't born lucky. It's hard work, it's perseverance, it's learning, studying, it's sacrificing, but most of all, it's loving what you're doing. And that's why I really think with succession, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day of your life, and everybody wants to walk in your shoes. But if you hate what you're doing, today's the day to change that, because sometimes there's no next time, sometimes there's no timeouts, sometimes it's now or never. Do not put it off. Thank you. God, I've waffled a bit there. Sorry, Rob.
No, Heather, that is superb. That is really, really good, and so many just save, so many salient points. Thank you. So many salient points on there. I do like the how-to manual. I think that's exceptionally a good idea. I did have a client who sadly lost his father last year, not through COVID. And first thing he did before he told me, and I'm quite a long way down his list, was phone the bank. And if he'd have phoned me, I'd have told him not to phone the bank. I'd have told him to go and get some money out first and then phone the bank, because the bank froze the account. And then they said, well, we'll text the number to the we'll text the unlock code to the mobile number we have on our system, which happened to be in his late father's pocket sitting in the morgue. So yeah, very, very salient points is the how-to manual and some backups and all the rest of it. So no, fantastic. That's really, really good. I'm going to let you have a quick breather, because you've absolutely galloped through that, and it was really, really good. And I'll move on to Joe. I have got a couple of questions that have come in and a couple to ask, but I'll just move on to Joe. So Joe Spencer, MacIntyre Hudson, tax accountant based in Peterborough, but Joe operates in Cambridgeshire, Bedfordshire, and throughout the sort of East Midlands and wider world, specialising in the agricultural sector for the MacIntyre Hudson business. So again, you know, a lot of farm accounts, small farms, large estates, a lot of diversification, and the usual elephant in the room that Heather very saliently touched on is succession, and obviously planning for those. So Joe, can I just come to you and just sort of, you know, add a few more points to Heather's talk, and just, you know, from your point of view, what you see in your professional world and dealing with change going forward in agricultural businesses.
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and evening all. Thanks, Heather. That was really good, and I think, Heather, you covered lots of things there, and really good points in there. So, you know, a lot of what we use in our day-to-day advice as well, when we're talking to clients on this matter. So for me, I picked out a few things. One of the main things, transparency. I really think that's a real key fundamental. You know, we usually end up in the farmhouse kitchen table, sat around maybe 2 or 3 generations. There will be tears when you have these conversations. There will, you know, you might need to structure it so you speak to people individually, and then different family members individually, and ask people to leave the room, and then bring people back in. And you act as a sort of mediator in a way with that. But you know, it's being open to that you've got to be transparent. You've got to lay your cards on the table. If you don't, you will not get the outcome that you desire. So that's one of the key points I picked up on there. Opportunity. You said about having the upcoming opportunities. There's so much support there at the moment. In the wider economy for diversification. You know, there's no better time to borrow money. Interest rates are pretty low. There's lots of support. I mean, we've had extra announcements today in the budget regards business rates, extension to relief on that. So we've got a good platform if you're going to start a business or look at a new route for diversification. Now's a good chance. I think, you know, obviously highlighting what we do as accountants and tax advisors, we would see ourselves as a key part of that professional network, which Heather alluded to as well. So making sure you build that network around you when you're going through change in succession or planning that strategy, and having them trusted advisors, people you can actually turn to and say, look, can you give me an honest opinion? People like the son or the daughter coming through, or the granddad or the grandma who's stood in the business, that they can equally turn to and say, can I have your honest opinion on this? Is also very important. Adding to that, I would say on the professional network side is the key thing we often see, wills. So that is one that is the first question that's normally asked, and normally it's no, I haven't touched my will for 25 years, and that's not a good answer. Obviously it happens, but it's really important that them legal documents tie up, because when they don't, that's when things go wrong. Things get more expensive further down the line when it happens as well. So really them documents need to flow. Is that all right, Rob? Is that?
No, that's good. Yeah, no, thank you, Joe. Thank you. Okay, so we obviously thought about this time last year with the changes in the agricultural world. Heather, if I could come to you first, just thinking of the younger generation, there are going to be some opportunities, or there's going to be some shake-up within the agricultural world. Some of it may be good, bad, or indifferent. There may be a lot of opportunities for younger generations to either get further into family businesses or into businesses of their own. I suppose the question I've got, as probably one of those younger generations, even though I hit the big 4-0 later last year, how do the younger generation prepare themselves to tackle that conversation with perhaps father and mother, but quite possibly also grandfather, grandmother, possibly an uncle kicking around, and a few others? What would your a couple of bits of advice to that younger generation to approach that subject? Because it's a very, as Joe had alluded to, can be very emotive and tough subjects, and you can often, you know, get knocked down very quickly. What would you advise to sort of take that forward?
I do quite a lot of work with young farmers, and there was a saying I found when in Australia. I went to Australia to research a lot about succession, and it was cash. It's not the wonga, which we all like, makes the world go round, but knowledge, attitude, skills, and habit. What is the knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits you need to be respectable, to be seen and respected, and to take on the business and be true to yourself? Because there's a lot of young people out there that have such arrogance and confidence, that believe they can take on, that they know everything, do it all. Oh no, no problem, I can do it. And you know, I think actually looking inwardly and being true to yourself, and taking a step back and thinking, you know, and starting from the bottom is really, really important. Do you understand the full business? You know, some kids go off to university and think they should come in as the manager. And I really like it when someone starts at the bottom and has a feel for all of the different elements of the business, so that they understand where all the cogs are. But there's a lot of other good guys that are so steady, competent, have been building themselves up and still keep hitting a brick wall. And that's where I love the idea of people going and walking away. And it's a really tough one sometimes to say, look, I need to work away, because just because we're family, we're not always guaranteed to get on. And we've got different drivers, different motivators, different valuers. And I think one of the best things I see is when someone goes and leaves a family business and works in other businesses or travels and becomes an employee, sees it from the bottom and sees different management styles in different businesses. And when I see succession really working well is when someone comes with an idea to the family business and then sits down and says, look, what's the big picture? Where do you want to be? And this is where I think I can add value to the business. This is what I think I can do with the business. And ideally, then the family members say, right, well, there you go. Here's a bit of land, you know, do your chickens, do your sheep, change that crop, change that variety, and give them some chance to learn, because we all make mistakes, but we all need a chance. And that's where it really works well. And then you can grow in and you can bring, you're adding value and you're an equal partner getting into that table. But sometimes we will never get on with that generation. And that's where it takes some pretty big balls sometimes to say, do you know what? We need to leave. We need to go away and we need to work elsewhere. We still want to be a member of the family and everything, but, you know, granny, granda, mum, dad, brother, sister, you know, you have your time, and in 10, 15 years, I'm going to come back into this business and I'm going to buy you out. And then I'm going to take it on, because that might be another way of doing it. You know, so there's a number of ways I think we need to look at how we behave. And have we been respectful? And, you know, do we get up in the morning? Do we do the day's work? Do we contribute? You know, how do we treat our staff? You know, or do we need to take a step back and look inwardly? And if we are really challenging and we're not getting in there and there's not a door and it's really frustrating us, you know, look to go elsewhere and go and learn new skills.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point on that, and something I certainly would advise a lot of my clients, where perhaps their son or daughter to come back into the farm with a little bit of knowledge elsewhere, same industry or different, is very useful and brings a different skill set in. Joe, I'm going to come to you just on change within the business. We're going to enter some potentially for some fairly stark times in agricultural incomes and the likes coming forward. Diversification, you've mentioned, there are an awful lot of diversification projects that get dreamt up and sometimes don't get followed through or don't work as well. I suppose you know, a couple of points that you would advise clients to be looking at, or businesses to be looking at, when considering diversifying away from perhaps what has been the core set of the business for many years into something that is brand new. What are sort of a few points that you know, we perhaps want to consider when looking at a diversification project?
Yeah, sure. So as you allude to, Rob, it's a case that, yeah, we're going to see pressure on farming incomes, aren't we? We've got the reduction in the basic payment scheme that's going to filter out through the next few years. So more and more people are looking at diversification if they haven't done that already. So it's going to be a key issue to get these reduced income streams replaced by another stream, basically. In terms of what you need to consider, I think one of the main things would be the commerciality longer term. It needs to, you know, it's all well and good coming up with an idea, but you need to think how it's going to either fit in with the farm. Is it using business assets that are maybe not being fully utilized at the moment? So does it have a natural fit with a farm, and is it commercial long term? What's the goal? As Heather sort of alluded to earlier, set the goals, set the objectives. Then it's all well and good having a goal, but is the goal commercial in 10 years? Are you going to have an income stream that's going to pay for it's going to pay the drawings of one of the partners, or is it going to go towards paying the school fees, for example? So there's lots of options to consider there. And then structure as well. I think that's an important point, is how you actually structure that. Is it we've got pressure, expected pressure perhaps on inheritance tax in future years, and changes to that, and where we actually set up these businesses, how much is it going to change the underlying business? Do you end up with do you end up with a small farm? Have you got a small holding? Then do you end up with a larger diversification business? How does that change the outlook of your overall tax position? Because that could fundamentally change in inheritance tax position as it stands, and that's when your inheritance tax planning needs to come in, and considerations there. So that would be my two key sort of areas on that one.
And I think, Rob, I see some families that sort of say, oh, we can't bring everybody back in, but we all want to work on the farm, and mum and dad say, oh, well, look, this is all their income is. We can afford to maybe give you £10,000. And £10,000 might be enough to keep one family member going. It might be more than enough, but for someone else it might think, well, actually, when we've worked out our needs for our aspiration for our retirement and long-term planning, we're going to need 30,000. And that doesn't need to be the end all. You can sort of say, right, well, okay, we can give you 10,000 out of the business, but if you want that additional 20, you need to bring it in elsewhere. And that's where you really start challenging your diversification. Is it going to add the value and get you to your end goal? And do you actually love what you're doing? Because there's some businesses that should not succeed. Everything is just wrong about them, but because they're so deeply passionate and determined, and they've just got this amazing aura about them, it just does fantastic. And that it is showing. So don't diversify just because the neighbours are doing it and someone else is doing it, because if it's not in your heart, it just won't succeed. And it can become another, ball round, chain round your ankle. So I think, love it and enjoy it, and know your economic denominators as well, and be as good as you can at it.
Yeah, scope it out what you're looking at as well. I mean, when you asked earlier about what should young farmers do, I wrote down business plan. Take it seriously. Do a business plan. Don't just say, oh, I've got this idea and I think it will be great. Show how it's going to work over the short term, medium term, longer term, and present it to the rest of the family. Show how it fits with the farm. Show what benefits you think it will bring. That way you'll get a much better buy-in.
And you don't always get that door opening the first time, and that's where, build, as a young farmer, build a relationship with the accountant, get to know the consultants. What do you think about this? If it's your godfather, if it's your aunt or uncle, I'm not making any headway with mum or dad. What do you think about it? And it might be a rubbish idea. So therefore, because not every idea is great, trust me. I've had some bombers. But some of the best entrepreneurs say, the most successful people have failed half a dozen times. And when you're young, you can be ambitious, and if you don't get it right the first time, it's not the end of the world. But as long as you learn and develop and those new skills, so you don't keep making the same mistakes.
And I'd just like to sort of flip that question round a little bit, actually, on the younger generation. I suppose from the older generation point of view, what would your advice be to them, Heather? I mean, you've got perhaps someone who's late 60s, early 70s, been running the business for years. Perhaps the kids have moved away because of whatever reason, or they didn't think there was a future there, and that person or couple are now perhaps becoming a little bit isolated, a bit more difficult to do everything, the joints ache a little bit more each morning, type of thing. What would your advice be to the elder generation to sort of, again, open that conversation up?
Yeah, succession, it can be a challenge if you've got too many people wanting to come in and you haven't feel you've got a big enough pot, but it can be equally the same for someone who's worked and all their life and no one wants to take it on. And what's it for? What's my legacy? And it can feel a little bit really disappointing that the next generation haven't seen this great dream that you built up. So I think there's a couple of options there. Is you need to be true to yourself, and it's surprising how many couples don't talk to each other. So therefore, husband and wife or partners, they haven't actually agreed, well, I want to be in the town, I want to stay here, I'm going to farm here till the day I die. So it's been honest what they want. And then there's so many wonderful contracting, share farming, there's some great opportunities. There's some wonderful trusts now that started up as well. Depending on what you are, it's thinking about your legacy. you know, and there's some farming families now that are doing some, you know, tenancies and different things coming forward, so that the farm is still in the family. So maybe their grandchildren or their nieces or nephews or whatever might want to have it, but they're giving a foot, you know, a leg up to a new generation coming forward. And some of these contract and share farming agreements, you know, I've been told, you know, it's like a breath of fresh air and a new spring in the step, because sometimes we get on with people that aren't our family better than family members as well. But, you know, it's a relationship. You know, you need to court, you need to really get to know each other. You need to make sure you've got common values and drivers and everything as well, and get really good professional advice in those as well. So yeah, you know, but like trust legacies, spend it and have a whale of a time as well. And that's where, you know, if you don't want the kids to have it, that's where wills are really good, because you can have a lot of fun with, you know, who doesn't get the money. You know, and I'm a director of the Highland Society, and we're always looking for legacies. And, you know, there's definitely some of my money going to Nuffield because it was a great influence for me. So think about this legacy. You know, you can give the younger generations a real influence. I'm sure the Agricultural Society there would love legacies and how you can move them on as well. So, you know, you can have a lot of fun rather than it feeling like a weight on your shoulders.
Exactly. No, very good. Joe, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's difficult when the generation perhaps not got their people coming through, you know, lower down, and it does pose problems. I think, again, being very transparent, you know, having them conversations, making sure nothing is no leaves unturned. You know, do you want it? Do you not want it? What are your plans? Because before you can make a decision, you've really got to get to the bottom of that, and so the transparency is key, and keep revisiting things. You know, just because someone said, "Oh, I don't want to be interested," they weren't interested 2 years ago, doesn't mean that life changed and you then come back to it. You know, everything changes: marriages, divorce, babies, you know, lifestyle. You know, we've all seen a massive change over the last year. Crikey, you know, video galore. And it's so when things change, you know, you should readdress these issues, and your key documents as well. You know, your wills, your partnership agreements. You know, these are the foundations of your business. So it's really important you pay attention to them.
And transparency is a funny thing, because, and that's where a lot of families, you know, they don't really talk the grunt. And, you know, you think, well, you understand, and they've never actually said what it might mean. So we do this awful assuming. And I think that's the beauty of bringing in someone like yourself, Joe, or myself outside, and just sort of saying, because we can ask those daft questions. Well, what would that mean? How would you feel if Jane or John, whoever got the business, did something else with it? You know, because some family members just want it to go on and are really free. And that's where a letter of wishes to say that, do you know, if it doesn't work for you, it's okay to sell it. It's okay to go on and do whatever you want, rather than this, you know, millstone around your neck. Oh, Granny and Granda said that, you know, it must always do. And that's where I'll sit down just with a piece of paper and say, you know, well, what are your interests with the children? What do you love doing? It might be wild schooling. It might be they want to have a holiday park. They might want to go and do something else, and think, well, we could do that with the business. How could we set it up that it's not going to impact the main farm or the main core business? You know, how could we implement and sometimes we as the outsiders have to help lift them up to see the bigger picture of the potential, because sometimes families are so embroidered in the way it's been and the problems and the issues that they don't see all the other opportunities that we have the privilege of seeing from the outside. And we haven't got that emotional baggage and that, you know, the history attached to it as well, which can often really blind and blinker people.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate as well, and ask it. You know, sometimes one partner will say, I just don't know how to ask it, and you know, we can go in as the professional advisors and ask them questions, and okay, they might be a bit uncomfortable for the recipient, but maybe it just open, maybe that question's been needed to be asked for 5 years, and you know, the courage hasn't been there, or it's not been easy to actually ask it. So
and sometimes succession doesn't happen because we actually don't have faith in the next generation. You know, and that can be a really tricky one when it comes down to it. Or, you know, there's and sadly so many times it's a fear of divorce. We don't like the daughter-in-law, or we don't like the son-in-law, and you know, no one's going to take this farm off us. Well, you're going to be deed, someone is. So it is getting down to that honesty and then saying, well, what if, and that's where you're right, Joe, the devil's advocate.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know whether there's technical issues or whether we just answered all the questions, because there's nothing come in from the participants. So I'm going to ask one more. I suppose times of volatility that we are living in, and the past 12 months and probably the next 12 months probably only really exacerbate the desire or the requirement to sit down or at least meet and discuss so many of these things, as you alluded to, Heather. I mean, you know, volatility, whether it be market volatility, you know, profits one year and losses the next type of thing, it probably exacerbates some change, but at the same time can often put people back into a corner going, well, so much is going on, I'm not going to do anything. And I suppose that's, you know, in such times it's more important in a way to have things discussed and planned.
And yeah, I guess we have so much information available to us now that there's stuff coming at us all the time that it can feel really overwhelming. And for me, it's about stopping, you know, stopping, thinking, what is it all for? What really motivates me? What really drives me? How do I want to feel at the end of the day? What do I want to have achieved? And for some people, it's massive, great competition, you know, to be the biggest of the best. Some people, it's just to be happy, just to have enough. And one's not right, one's not wrong, one's not lesser, one's not greater. It's been true about what really motivates you and drives you. And then, you know, pulling those right people around you. And I come back again, you know, I do worry about COVID, that people now have got out of socializing and mixing, and it really does help talking about what's concerning you, talking about, well, how are you dealing with, you know, black grass? How are you dealing with, you know, abortion in your flock? How are you dealing with this? How is your, you know, and these questions, and realizing it's not just me, and that then gives you that step. So for me, network is absolutely key, and having a strong core people that you trust, whether it be a neighbour that you can go to, or a friend or a family, or social. Sometimes it's easier, you know, on social media because nobody judges you. But you know, it's sitting down and having that core. And if you haven't got someone, you know, there's a lot of organisations out there that's willing to help as well. You know, nobody should feel they're on their own.
No, that's very good. Very good. Joe, anything to add on that?
I just agree with what Heather's said there. Really, you know, I think she's hitting it on the head. So can't really. I you know, small steps, build small steps towards it, and set goals. Would be, you know, my advice.
Yeah. No.
I must admit, I have a number of my clients that were starting to get quite anxious with things, and I said, just have a notebook. And at the end of every day, on one sheet of paper, write what went well, what was a success, what made you feel good, what was a good achievement. And on the other page, if something went wrong, what was it, why was it, you know, is it someone that triggers you, is it a reaction, is it the weather, what is it? And do that every day. And, you know, so many times think we're not getting on with anything, it's a disaster, it's awful. But then when we look back, we think, oh, well, that actually was quite a good day when we start writing it down, and we've possibly achieved more. And then once things haven't, you know, at the end of the day, say, well, what one thing will I do tomorrow to get me a step further forward? And just one thing. And it might be a phone call, it might be, you know, whatever it is. Just one thing that's going to get you a step closer to your dreams. And that notebook has been amazingly helpful to so many of my clients.
Yeah, journaling has been one of the key phrases, hasn't it, of lockdown and COVID throughout the world, of people beginning to journal and write things down on a more regular basis. So no, I think it's a very good point, very well made. Well, we've hit the hour mark, absolutely spot on. I don't know if we were meaning to hit the hour mark or not, but anyway, we have done so. Can I, on behalf of everyone on this, and hopefully everyone who's going to watch this many times over on the website. Thank both Heather and Joe on behalf of the Society and their time that they've given up this evening. I appreciate that very much. Thank you all to those of you who have also joined us this evening. I hope that has been of use. We do all sincerely hope that we can physically meet up one day very soon. Cultivator very much taken the view that we would rather postpone and go again when we can physically meet up and have that social interaction. It makes, whilst these work really, really well, and as Heather alluded to, has been around the world twice already this week, it is much better when we are physically in the same room, I think. The Society have got a few more things planned, I think, for these types of things over the course of the next few months, so look out for those. But in the meantime, I will thank Heather and Joe again very much. I wish you all a very good evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's hope that the weather still keeps on playing ball with us. And have a gin, Heather. Have a gin. Thank you very much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you very soon, one day. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Give us a call if anyone needs any further help or anything as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sat. We'll put your details on the website. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye-bye.